There we go. All right. So multimodality, a tool. Multimodality, a tool to analyze media that presents itself into several different modes at the same time. We're gonna dive a little deeper into this. So today we're going to cover these particular aspects of studying cultural productions. We're going to dive a little bit into what literacies are. We're going to go into what multimodality is. We're going to take a look at some useful terms, and we're going to understand specifically in multimodality what are modes. Multimodality means that there are several modes that are acting at the same time. What are modes? Let's answer that. And then we're going to practice with some analysis. Sorry about the delay for the start of the class today. We were coming from a specific workshop, but if we don't finish this class, then we're gonna continue next class, so no big deal. Now, there are different definitions of what literacy is. The most basic definition is through its antonym. What is an illiterate person? Who can tell me what an illiterate person is?
Someone who doesn't know how to write and read
Perfect.
and or read.
Yes, perfect. That is the most basic definition of an illiterate person. So then, what is a literate person? If we go by the opposite, a literate person is a person who can read and write. But technology being what it is today, social progress being what it is today, social complexity being what it is today, we now not only read texts. There are many other things that we are constantly reading, meaning music, movies, ads, Instagrams, shorts, histories, WhatsApp groups. All of those are things that we read, but not all of those have text, like letters and text, but we are reading all of them. So literacy today expands beyond the written text. So, because I see Mateo. Mateo, do you have a microphone?
Yes, I do.
What do Barton and Hamilton say about literacy?
Okay. Literacy is primarily something people do. It is an activity located in the space between thought and text. Literacy does not just reside in people's heads as a set of skills to be learned, and it does not reside on paper, captured as text to be analyzed. Like all human activity, literacy is essentially social, and it is located in the interaction between people.
All right. Thank you, Mateo. All right, so a little bit to add to the definition, literacy is something people do among each other. Is not only captured in texts, and it is not only a set of skills like reading and writing. Today, literacy is something people do every day, interpreting, understanding, deriving meaning from anything that happens in life. So, making meaning, generating meaning. All right, perfect. I see Federico, so I am choosing Federico as my volunteer. I volunteer Federico. Could you please tell us what Marsh says?
Hello.
Hi,
A social practice that involves reading, writing, and multimodal meaning making through the use of range of digital technologies.
fantastic. That is a Marsh definition that I had to memorize in my master's. So you also get attacked with that definition. So in this case, it is a practice that involves reading and writing, but not just reading and writing text. reading and writing images, reading and writing emojis, reading and writing video, reading and writing music, reading and writing all the different ways that we now today generate meaning. Does that make sense? Is what I'm saying Aramaic or am I speaking English? Does what I'm saying make sense? Give me a.
Yes, it does, Professor.
All right, perfect. Because reading, basically, reading today is not just stringing letters together and deriving meaning from that. Reading today is creating meaning from a variety of different modes. Now, we have one last one, and the only person, I mean, I see several people, but I like volunteering Isaac. So, Isaac, what does Cress say?
Hello everyone, can you guys hear my mic? I'm using a
Yes, perfect.
okay. Literacy practices are evolving. We are in a changing landscape of communication where the kinds of texts we commonly encounter and are required to produce are no longer mainly language-based, but are made up of combinations of modes, including visual, audio, gestural, spatial, and linguistic. Kress, 1997.
Yes. So here we go with the modes. What are the modes? What are the specific boxes that of things that generate meaning? That's okay, Valeria, don't worry. Thank you for letting us know. So, um, yeah, don't worry about that. So we have visual information that we can read. We have audio information that we can read. We have gestural information that we can read. Spatial information that we can read. And linguistic information, which is what we have familiarized ourselves a little bit already with linguistics and with studying English. We can understand the mode of linguistic information in the sub mode of Spanish. We can understand linguistic information in the sub mode of English, and we can derive meaning from those symbols, from those linguistic symbols. However, everybody here can also derive meaning from all of those others modes of symbols. All right. If anybody gets lost at any point, just raise your hand, let me know. But this is what we mean with multimodality. These five, visual, audio, gestural, spatial, and linguistic, are modes. And these five are what we normally have in a movie. And these five are what a director makes conscious choices into how to convey meaning. That's why you had to write that's why you had to watch the two movies and how we're going to study and analyze those two movies. So before we go with Elizabeth, what do we see? We have two examples here of reading when there is no text. Who can tell me what this chart here means on the right, on the left?
It's like a scale of happiness or sadness, I think.
Huh? Close. Has anybody seen this in the doctor's office?
Yes, that's a scale of pain, Professor.
Yes, it's a scale of pain. How do you know that if it doesn't say pain or scale anywhere?
Because of
Well,
the faces they're making.
Yes. And it is basically a tool that doctors use and that even children can understand to say how strong their pain are. There is no text beyond numbers, only faces with specific characteristics that help us, that give us meaning and allows us to also construct meaning. And I can say I am in a 5, and the doctors understands the amount of pain that this person is feeling is a lot, but it's not an intolerable amount of pain. All of that is meaning that the doctor constructed when we told them I am in a 5 and we pointed at the 5 in the scale. So in this case, we had the visual mode generating the meaning that the doctor understood. Does that make sense? The reading was of visual information in this case. All right, and what? Let's focus on this space here where we have three little symbols. One of them is a heart. One of them is a little circle with a little penis, and then the other one is a little, I don't know, a triangle with a thing. I, of course, know what these are, but can someone tell me what these things mean, even if we don't have words here?
Like, comment, and share.
Yes. And what do those things mean?
Interactions.
Yes. In where?
Instagram.
Yes. And what does it mean? What does it mean if I click the little thing here, the little heart?
That I like and I agree with the post.
Yes. So without any specific, I would like to express my agreement in this specific piece of picture or information from my account in this particular platform. Do we see that text anywhere? No. The interaction and the generation of meaning is just through a symbol. If I want to leave a message, I just click here. If I want to send this to someone, I click here. And we know what these things mean because we can read this mode. However, there are people like our parents or maybe their parents who don't read, cannot read these things. They don't know what these symbols mean. Does that make sense? We have acquired the capacity to work within this mode, but other people haven't. Other people don't have the ability to work within that mode. And then we get frustrated with our grandparents because they click whatever and they do whatever, or we need to teach them how to find the picture of their grandsons, things like that. One person has the ability to read that language and the other person doesn't. One person has the ability to work within that mode, visual mode in this case, and the other person doesn't. One person is literate in this particular mode and the other person isn't. That's why literacy is an evolving thing, and it evolves with culture, it evolves with technology, and it evolves with any kind of social activity or change. Now, multimodality. In multimodality, meaning is made in multiple modes which are used in various combinations. We combine these modes to accentuate, to contrast, to emphasize, and we have, for example, image, we have writing, we have music, and we have the layout of things. If we're talking about an Instagram post, if we change any of these things, the combination also changes the meaning, also changes the way that things are going to work. Then we have each mode, whether it is, I think someone has their microphone open. Let me check.
Oh, sorry, it's mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. Um, Each mode offers different possibilities and limitations for communications. We're going to see this also as affordances. Possibilities can be replaced with affordances. What does each mode, either visual or spatial or whatever, what are the things that those modes afford us? Texts are designed using what is available, both materially and socially. If a person can make a movie that will be the text. If a person can only make a book, that is also a text. If a person can make an Instagram post, that is a text. Why text? Because all of those things are things that we can read and derive meaning and make meaning out of. So usually the person expresses themselves in whatever material and societal permission that they have. If they can make art, they will make art. If they can write, they will write. If they can only react and make TikToks, they will react and make TikToks. If they can only hang out with friends, they will hang out and hang out with friends. People make meaning in different ways, in different modes. So this is all purposeful and relevant. People make choices into how to use these modes. The choices made in all communication are purposeful and relevant. Just think of a conversation, for example. We actively decide if we want to call the person in front of us, and sorry for my language, we actively decide if we want to call the person in front of us a dumbass or we want to call them someone who is struggling with understanding. That is a choice that people make into which word we're going to use. The same thing happens if the communication is just visual or just gestural. So we can make rude gestures or we can make different gestures, and we choose to generate meaning with one or the other. So in every single mode, we actively make choices into how to communicate. And they show the interest and the intentions of the one making the signs, of the one making the meaning. And last but not least, the linguistic aspect, the linguistic mode, is not necessarily more important than other modes. And the language, especially the script in a movie, cannot be analyzed separately from everything else in the movie. What is the music that is being played at the same time? What are the characters doing at that time? Where is the lightning coming from at that time? All of those things form a combination that the director and actors and the production crew made a decision purposefully to create that specific meaning for the audience to derive. Questions so far? All right, so far we're good. If I say, for example, this is fine, I don't see many reactions. But what if I say, what if I show, for example, this is fine? Those were two different modes. One of them was only linguistic. This one is also visual, right? So this one means one thing. This one is a meme that means something else. Do you see the difference? We have combined two different modes and made a meme. I mean, I didn't make the meme, obviously, but you get the meaning. This one means something different from this one, right? Because we have the visual affordances of the visual mode combined with the text, right? Okay, so some useful terms that I have been using and that are good, that it's good to have a good grasp on. All right, so when I say mode, mode can be the method of communication, visual, spatial, audio, linguistic, etc. Those are all different modes in which information is transmitted, the specific type of communication that is being used. Now, we also have affordances. Let's start here. Let's start with affordances. Now, affordances are specific features, specific characteristics to a chosen medium or a chosen mode that the meaning creator, that the person who made the thing, can use when composing the medium. So it is basically the potential things that that specific mode that you choose can be manipulated to get a message across. So, for example, if I'm using only text, I have the affordances of metaphors, similes. I have the affordances of where I put things in the page to make them stand out. Those are specific affordances. However, if I do the same scene in a movie, I have different affordances because I can use the expressions of the actors, for example. I can use the positions of the actors. I can use the things that the actors do. Even if the book and the movie are the same, the affordances and the things that I can do are different. Does that make sense? All right,
So
cool.
if I understand well, it's like affordances is like the tools that each mode have, or something like that. Kind of tool.
The things that you can do with different tools. For example, if you have a screwdriver, you can do a certain amount of things with a screwdriver. But if you have a hammer, there are some things that you could probably fit around and do the same things that a screwdriver can do. But a hammer is good for other things. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right,
Okay.
perfect. All right, great. So then we have salience. Salience, if you would like another word, if you don't know the word salience, it could be prominence as well. So salience refers to the elements of a text. Remember that by text we mean whatever type of text, can be visual, audio, linguistic, whatever type of text, anything that can be read, anything that can be interpreted. Salience are the elements of a text that are most significant, the elements of a text that are more pronounced, that are at the moment being most emphasized. So for example, if we're watching a movie scene, we're probably going to have linguistic information because the characters are talking. We're going to have spatial information because of where the actors are. For example, one actor is sitting in the throne and the other actor is kneeling. Spatial information. We have gestural information because the actors are using expressions. And in each of those modes, something is going to be most salient. Something is going to be most prominent. And what is most prominent is usually on purpose. And the fact that that thing is on purpose is something that we can use as arguments as to why Elizabeth looks weak in this particular scene, or Elizabeth looks very powerful in these other particular things, because the most salient aspect is that she is alone in the center and everybody else is beneath her. We're using spatial information. Does that make sense? So we can use these terms as explanations or examples as to how Elizabeth is being presented, or as to how Elizabeth is interacting, or as to how we are expected to react to what Elizabeth is doing. Because all of those, like we mentioned earlier, are conscious choices. It's not like they filmed whatever and that is what came out. They specifically decided to put that specific frame from that specific scene, from that angle, from that volume of voice, from that distance of Elizabeth, etc., etc., etc. And why did they decide to do that? Why did those salient aspects, what are their purpose? Now, another thing that we often use as a useful term in multimodality is the idea of contrast. Contrast is something that you probably know what it means. For example, if you have white and you have black, that those are two contrasting colors. If you used a camera, for example, you can increase or decrease the contrast so that there is a higher difference between specific things in the image. In this case, contrast works in a similar way. So contrast are sharp differences between elements that are noticeable based on their relationship to each other. So, for example, just giving a random example, let's say, I don't remember, I think House of the Dragon, for example, we had, it doesn't matter if you haven't seen House of the Dragon, we have a very, very weak person that is struggling so hard to get to his throne, and the most salient aspect of his gesture mode of mini making is his weakness. But that contrasts very, very, very hard with the throne itself, with how grand and magnificent and terrifying the throne is. So that contrast is on purpose. It was decided by the directors and the cinematographers and the photograph director to do that on purpose. And that contrast has a specific meaning and it's very noticeable. So we can use the salience of specific things to explain how we are supposed to feel or how we're supposed to react. Or we can use also the contrast between different aspects of the same mode or between different modes to explain how we're supposed to feel or what the specific reaction expected from us is, or how the character being depicted, or how the character is being depicted. Now, here we have two similar pictures. We have two families. Both families are together. Both families are interacting. Both families are reacting to something. Are they the same meaning? Are those two the same text? Not really. Who would like to give me what the differences are? What are the differences that you notice? You don't need to use terms like salience or contrast or anything like that. What's the difference between these pictures? Adriana, go ahead.
I
And
think one of the main differences could be the lighting. Like in the first one, everyone is happy and laughing, and the lighting is very bright. And then in the
mhm.
second one, everyone looks worried, and then the lighting is very dark.
Yes. So you talked about two modes there. One mode, lighting. Second mode, gestures, right? So in mode number one, the lighting, one very bright, two very dark. And then in gestural, in one we have happiness that we can break it down further and say a specific thing like smiles and closeness and whatever. And in the other one, very different gestures, right? So what can we, this may sound a little out there, but it's the question that we ask when we're talking about multimodality. What can we read with the symbols that we have, with the lightning, with the gestures, with the space between the people? What are the things that we can, if you've seen these two series, you can spoil it, that's fine. If you haven't, what is the impression that you get? Because that impression that you get is on purpose. Who would like to try? I think it's you raise your hand, but you lowered it again, so I don't know if you want to try.
Yeah, I can try.
Go ahead.
I'd never seen both of the series, but
Great.
on the bottom where it says
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
yeah, I never watched it, but it seems that there's some conflict going on, like especially if you guys are familiar with like cinematography, like
Mhm.
it's like a you can see like a invisible line in the middle of the image. There's
Yeah.
on the left there's the girl, and on the right there's the woman and the two
There's
women.
a whole lot of empty space on
Yeah,
purpose here,
before.
separating two groups of people.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. And some sort of conflict is what you read. Perfect. Excellent. That is literacy in action. We are reading in here conflict. Valeria, go
I
ahead.
would say separation. Yeah, just
Also,
to add.
yeah. Okay. Valeria?
I think from the images you can also like infer what type of series it is. Like the one data at a time seems maybe like a comedy, some slice of life,
Mm-hmm.
while the chilling adventures of Sabrina seems more like, I don't know, mystery and so.
Uh-huh. So here we are reading comedy or slice of life. And here we are reading either mystery or something like that. That is what we are reading based on the symbols that we have. The symbols are the gestures, the space, the way they're looking at each other, and same here, the gestures, the closeness, the way they're all reacting to something. Those are the symbols, and our reading of those symbols are what we are very interested in when we're doing social studies, because these two things are cultural. They are cultural productions. They are what society makes. So we study what society makes, and the tool that we use to study what society makes is multimodality. What these things that we can read, we can see the symbols, and we can also read those symbols, and we just need to try to make it a little bit more conscious. Why are we seeing conflict here and happiness or fun here? What are the symbols that indicate that to us? Now, we mentioned them before. Just to reiterate, there are five main modes. These are the modes into which information is presented to us in any sort of cultural production. Um, some some have all of them. Some have some of them. All of them have at least one of them. So linguistic mode is the choice of words and the delivery of those words. Are you delivering them in verse? Are you delivering them in prose? Are you delivering them in very, very short sentences, very direct sentences? Are you delivering them with a specific tone of voice? Those are the affordances of the linguistic mode. Then we have spatial. What is spatial? If you put two people very close together, that can probably mean one thing if you see them. But if you put them like in the same chair and they are very, very far apart and they are looking away from each other, that would indicate something different. And the only thing that change is the position and the proximity and the direction of those two people. So spatial information is also something that can be read. The organization of things and where things are between people, between objects, and between people and objects. That's spatial information. In both Elizabeth movies, the spatial mode is something that is used very well to indicate power, for example. Then we have the visual mode. In visual, we have many different things. We can have colors that we use. If we use a lot of red, if we use a lot of white, if we use a lot of yellow, things like that. If we use a lot of light, if we use a lot of dark, all of those things have meanings that we can read. The size of things, the perspective of things, if we're looking at things from below, if we're looking at things from above, if we're looking at things at eye level, if we're looking at things very, very closely, those all have an interpretation. Those have a reading of the thing. We have one part that is very important in all movies, which is the audio mode. In the audio mode, we have music, we have sound effects, we have noise, we have silence, we have volume, we have all of those things that are not necessarily part of the linguistic part. We have them in audio. If we, especially for example, sound effects, or if we're watching horror movies, you notice that jump scares are never silent. Jump scares are always accompanied by some very loud noise, so that you are scared visually and with sound. And then we have gestures, the parts where actors shine, uh, facial expression, hand gestures, body language. So, for example, does the person have a happy face, a sad face, a regretful face, a mournful face? Is the person very active in the way they are gesticulating, or are they very calm, and that is contrasting with the way they speak, for example? Are the For body language, are they pacing a lot, or are they the epitome of stillness? All of those things are symbols. All of those are symbols that have meaning and that we can read when they are conjugated together within that mode or with other modes of information. We also have then what we're going to do today. What time is it? So if we're gonna go until, I think we're gonna do this, yeah, breakout rooms, but very quickly, and then we're going to continue this next week, probably. But you were supposed to watch both Elizabeth movies, and we have several different questions here. We're gonna make breakout rooms. You don't need to go into too much detail. We just need to start our brainstorming process in our groups, and you guys to answer these questions and try to get the group answers. Does that make sense? I don't need every single person in the group to give one specific answer and have 8 different scenes. Just in general, maybe choose 3 scenes as a group and try to answer these questions. Okay, so let me read. So, first of all, if you knew nothing, this is the general question. If you knew nothing at all about Elizabeth, what would you think about her after watching each of the movies? This will be a general question where you can have general opinions, get some general opinions from the group. And then we have a little short questionnaire where we have choose 3 movie scenes. If you can't think of 3, think of at least 1 or 2. Choose 3 movie scenes and what characteristics of Elizabeth are these scenes trying to emphasize? That's the main question. All of these other questions are based on those 3 specific scenes and are there to help you explore those scenes a little bit further. I have some examples here of scenes that I can show you in case you can think of any, but the questions are: what can you infer from the pattern of speech of Elizabeth or the other people there? Does the body language change from one scene to the Federico? Yes, go ahead.
We should use just Elizabeth, the first one, or both for the scenes to select the scenes.
I have scenes from both of them. So I have some these are scenes from the first one. These are scenes from the second one. That if you cannot think about any of, I think you can use these ones. So
Okay,
any of
thank you.
them, any of them. I'm gonna talk a little bit about which scenes I've chosen. If you cannot think of any, but if you can think of other scenes that are not the ones that are here, that's fine. So, does the body language change from one scene to the other among the scenes that you chose? what sounds can be heard by the audience, and what things can the people inside the movie hear. This is called diegetic sound. How is lightning used in those particular scenes? And what can you tell by looking only at how far or close people are from each other? If you can do at least one scene, that's great, and we continue next class. If you can do three scenes, fantastic, you're geniuses. But if you can do at least one scene where you can answer all of these questions, that would be great. So here are some scenes that I recommend because they're particularly interesting. These two first ones are from the early first movie where Elizabeth meets Mary and this other person who I don't know who she is, but the Mary who married the King of Spain and was queen and was kind of cuckoo crazy, the Lulu. So Elizabeth is brought to her, with Mary being in power and Elizabeth fearing for her life. Essentially, that is one of the first scenes that we have. Another scene further on in the movie is just Elizabeth looking at a painting of her father, Henry VIII. We talked about Henry VIII, who was a very, very important person in history, also huge asshole, but very, very influential, very, very significant person in net positive for the history of England. Then we have, for example, another scene where Elizabeth is more coming into her role and essentially solving the religious crisis that England is going through by essentially dominating with a lot of shrewdness and a lot of cunning the discussion around what is necessary for the benefit of England and the benefit of the Church of England. Now, in the second movie, we have the speech before what is expected to be a land invasion from Spain to England and the Grand Armada. We have another scene where Elizabeth is not actually there; it's just the King of Spain, uh, essentially being rejected by the Infanta and the Catholic bishops. And then we have, for example, the final scene where Elizabeth essentially becomes a god, becomes like a godlike figure in England. Those are some scenes that you can use for your discussion. Now, let me get actually these questions here. I'm gonna put them in the chat. Copy them in order to have them. And the big question. What will be? All right, so there you have the questions. Copy them to a Google Doc because I don't know if you have access to them when we make the breakout rooms. We have 10 minutes breakout rooms, 10-minute sharing our thoughts, and then we finish for today. So breakout rooms. You are 22, so I want 5 breakout rooms, and 5 would be, yeah. Automatically create and open. All right, so 10 minutes. Try to answer as many of the questions as you can, and then we come back and share. All right? Cool.
Oli,
Hello.
me uno nomás a cualquiera.